fifth session of the ethnography, we are going to talk again about committees as part of regular academic procedures. And we're going to talk about them in a slightly different dimension to the one we discussed in the last session, which is their relationship to the truth. I mean, it is related, obviously, to the previous session also, but I am particularly interested in looking at these committees in the age of the post-truth, another one of these contemporary cultural phenomena, which I believe are emerging, or is emerging from some of the ideologies that started in the 1970s, particularly within universities, which can be generally grouped under the label of postmodernism, where the world is constructed as a conversation between different identities and perspectives, without the possibility to arrive to a firm conclusion. In this world, truth has been replaced by interpretation, in the impossibility to find the ultimate truth, and truth and morale have therefore been reduced to a constellation of multiple truths, multiple possibilities. Let me share the screen so that I can show you the evidence related to this session. So it's about committees and cover-ups, the post-truth university. That's the title of this session, and it's very much inspired by this citation from Dennett, which I have already used. Postmodernism, the school of thought that proclaimed there are no truths, only interpretations, has largely played itself out in absurdity. But it has left behind a generation of academics in the humanities disabled by their distrust of the very idea of truth and their disrespect for evidence, settling for conversations in which nobody is wrong and nothing can be confirmed, only asserted with whatever style you can master. So you can see the resort to interpretation as opposed to truth, and you can see the conversations as opposed to evidence. So it's a very specific way of operating, which I think is eventually the origin of what we call today the post-truth. And that's why I am interested in that sentence, because it brings together these two terms. And the phenomenon of the post-truth has been already explored by a number of theorists and artists, and have been associated to the techniques of science denial, which is also interesting in respect to the operation of a university exploited by the climate change deniers and the Trump administration and the oil and tobacco lobbies, and have been described in detail, these casuistics used to legitimize alternative facts, as Kellyanne Conway stated. This disregard for evidence is something that now plagues contemporary politics, and legitimizes things like climate change denial and intelligent design. And what is most interesting about the things that I'm going to explain next is that truth is actually the first purpose of Princeton. In first point 111 of University Principles of General Conduct and Regulation says the central purposes of a university are the pursuit of truth, and so on and so forth. It's the first one. Is not the only university that says this. Universities generally claim that their purpose is the pursuit of truth. That's why, to elucidate how the pursuit of truth is followed in universities today is particularly interesting, I think. And I think that despite the fact that Princeton claims to be in pursuit of truth, perhaps some of the evidence that I'm going to show will show that it's rather the opposite, or maybe since the truth has been replaced by interpretation, as we saw before. I would like to go back to Nietzsche and his statements about the truth is there is no truth. Everything is subject to interpretation, and once that happens, he says, truth is a function of power. I mean, obviously, all this is full of interesting relationships with Foucault and with other thinkers. That relationship between truth, power, and the university as the institution that is in pursuit of truth is quite interesting. In this chapter, what we will see is rather a structure of multiple layers of authority that protect each other, shield and cover each other's deceitful behavior in order to support the chain of authority. And these operations are often performed through committees. It's a rather interesting moment for this to happen, because it resonates with some of the things, some of the political processes that we have seen in the American politics, like, you know, the cover-ups of President Trump in the Senate, the incredible disrespect for evidence from the White House. This session is going to relate primarily to the operation of Monica Ponce de Leon and Deputy Dean Turano, but also to the interventions of the CCFA, the Committee on Conference and Faculty Appeal. We have already seen this body. We have mentioned it in the previous sessions, which play an important role, and I think are exemplary of some of the things that I am talking about. The beginning of this session probably goes back to the origin of my complaint about the systematic deceitful behavior from Dean Ponce de Leon, which is described in chapter A of my complaint. We are not going to look at it because they are just small misdemeanors, which only serve as an index to explain her predisposition to enter the post-truth regimes. We are going to concentrate in the process that followed my letter to the students in November 2019, in which as I explained, I recommended the students to seek someone else as advisor to avoid becoming collateral in this conflict of ideological conflict and methodological conflict between the coordinators of thesis and me as a primary thesis advisor of some students. So despite this letter that I sent to the students, one of my former students decided to put me down as one of the choices without consulting me before about his intentions or consulting me about his prospective research. This was a student with excellent capacities to do research, but was actually rather weak as a designer, and therefore it would have become a prime target for the coordinators to sink him as a proxy in this ideological war they were waging against me. So I received this letter saying that this student has been assigned to me, and I responded stating that how is it possible that a student has been assigned to me if I have not seen the thesis? Not only I had asked the students myself to come to talk to me if they wanted me to become their advisor, but I understood that the protocol that was being followed since 2018 asked the students to communicate previously with their desired advisors. So this person didn't follow these protocols, and I really didn't think that this student would have been destroyed by the conflicting advice, because he was in a weaker position than the student the year before, which we have already seen how it ended up, and how 2 years after leaving the school, he was still kind of coming to terms with the catastrophe that happened in his thesis as a result of this conflicting interest. So basically, I used the fact that the protocols had not been complied with to say that I didn't think that this student can be simply assigned to me without me knowing anything about the thesis. And so then Dean Ponce de Leon said that I had to take this student, and I said, okay, I'll take the student at the student's peril and your peril, because you are putting the student again into this impossible situation of operating between two conflicting ideologies. And eventually, Mónica Ponce de Leon, after a fairly heated conversation that you can read in chapter C, decided to reassign the student to another advisor, which I thought it was a good idea. And so she ended up the conversation saying, despite our best effort, you continue to refuse to fulfill your responsibilities as a faculty at the school, and your statements publicly disparaging other faculties are offensive, extremely inappropriate, and will not be tolerated. This is on the 9th of December 2019. Now, on the 10th of December 2019, I get this very polite letter, almost apologetic letter from Mónica Ponce de Leon, saying that yesterday we learned from the Office of the Dean of Faculty that the university has a rule that caps the number of faculty leaves at 1/3 of the number of tenure faculty for any given academic year. So she basically the next day canceled my leave that was due in spring 2021, and argues that there is a rule that she has 7 applications. She had to agree to 7 applications, and therefore 7 leaves already for that academic year, and therefore she couldn't fit any anymore. I mean, this is a kind of retaliatory action of manual. So we are dealing about something else, about the assignment of students and the thesis protocols. And then because I am resisting that and I am challenging that, she cancels my leave. And so it so happened that leave, I had information from before, from the departmental manager, that it had been proposed by the Dean of the Faculty in the summer. So the Dean of the Faculty in the summer talked to the departmental manager and said, this guy can take a leave on spring 21. And I basically had already done the papers to obtain the leave. But obviously, Mónica Ponce de Leon retaliated against me by stopping the leave. And so I started doing some research about this matter and found out that not only the whole argument that Mónica Ponce de Leon was making about the leave, like she had granted 7 leaves and she couldn't grant anymore. she didn't have 7 applications. Some of them were constructed after the fact in order to cover herself up, and there is evidence of this in the correspondence with the departmental manager. But not only that, I found the rule that she was referring to, and it's a rule from the dean of the faculty that says that the cap of 1/3 of the faculty is applicable to any given time, not any given academic year, as she wrote. And you can easily understand, since the leaves are given every half a year, every term, every academic term, the difference is basically double. So it's from having 14, the possibility of giving 14 leaves to giving 7. Nobody ever gives even 7, and she certainly was not going to do. And in fact, today, with hindsight, since spring 21 already happened, we know that in the year 2021, she gave actually 2 leaves to senior faculty, 2 leaves in the fall and 1 leave in the spring, so 3. There was absolutely no reason why the whole argument that she makes is an incredible sequence of lies, like that, lies that show more of the same type of attitude. So here we have senior academics, administrators who are lying on a systematic level. That's the kind of appreciation for truth that exists in Princeton University. And they are protected by the higher administration. So because Monica, I mean, basically I interrogated her. Finally, she said she was not going to answer anything, because I asked to see evidence of who had been received the leave, and she obviously didn't want to give that evidence. So I moved up my complaint to Tony Turano, Deputy Dean of the Faculty. And Tony Turano didn't respond for a month, I think, which is very unusual in her, in my experience. And then eventually I had to insist, and basically I was surprised to see that what she did was to she didn't want to provide any evidence about the process, because apparently the dean of the Monica Ponce de Leon said the dean of the faculty was involved, but Tony Turano didn't want to provide any evidence of these falsified leave assignments, some of which I believe were constructed after this process started in December. And eventually, after an interesting correspondence that you can see in chapter E3, I also told her, I mean, it was quite interesting that she also responded to me and said that there was a rule, or that Monica was told by somebody in her department, that no more than 1/3 of architecture faculty could be on leave on 2021. And this is the maximum to ensure appropriate curricular coverage, blah, blah, blah. So again, she cites the same false rule. The rule doesn't say no more than 1/3 of the faculty can be on leave on an academic year. The rule says at any given time, not more than 1/3 of the faculty can be away. So she also writes down the same fake rule. And so when I remind her that that's not the real rule, and I cite literally her own department's procedures. She ends up saying the reasoning behind each approval and denial in ARC this year falls squarely within the criteria provided by the DOF. But what are these criteria? Because the criteria that is written in the DOF website say something else. And then she ends up saying all faculty members are expected to comply with the DOF policies, procedures, and decisions. So here we see autocratic academic governance to its best, where the kind of circular self-reference self-referential operation is custom, and where you are expected to comply with policies, procedures, and decisions. It is unclear what happens when the decisions are against the policies, which is what was happening here. Anyway, she eventually recommended me to appeal her decision and Monica Ponce de Leon's decision to the CCFA if I disagreed with it. And the we've already talked about the CCFA, but let me clarify something. The CCFA, this is from the charter of the CCFA, is a body whose obligation is to protect the rights and privileges of individual members of the faculty on behalf of the entire faculty of the university. And they are supposed to provide a report. Now, it happens that as we saw in the thesis chapter, that report didn't take place in their consideration of the case, but it's more interesting because this body, this is the committee that saw my complaint against this kind of retaliatory and deceitful behavior from Dean Ponce de Leon and the Dean of the faculty. And you can see some familiar faces. Two of the members of the committee had been already part of the complaint turned into appeal against the thesis protocols. So I think that these two people should have stepped down from this committee, even if it was a different matter. But so these are these are the people that oversaw my complaint regarding the denial of the leave of absence. This is the people that adjudicated or dismissed my complaint against the thesis protocols at the School of Architecture. And as I said, there are two people that are the same. And what is interesting, and we will see that the same individuals appear time and again. They are selected. These members of the Princeton faculty are selected by what is called the Committee on Committees, which develops a list of candidates that they are voted in a ceremony every year. A ceremony that is actually attended by very few people in the faculty. But nevertheless, theoretically, this is a democratic process in which somebody can propose a candidate right there, and then very few people amongst my colleagues even know what the CCFA is, let alone anybody voting or proposing members. These normally members of the CCFA are proposed by the higher level and selected. So, and they remain there as I think pawns for the higher authorities of the university. They are members of the faculty that are lifted to that position simply for the authorities to be, it's a rubber stamping committee basically, for the authorities to basically legitimize their decisions. And so I did the post the complaint. You can look at it in chapter E. I think it is quite interesting because the behavior of Mónica Ponce de León is so incredibly, I have to say, clumsy in the way in which she argues the decision that I don't know what these people thought about it, but as expected, the CCFA dismissed my claim. Dismissed my claim and says the following: the leave program does not guarantee a sabbatical leave is a privilege, not a right, and therefore they don't deal with privileges. But actually, we just saw the charter of the CCFA saying that they are there to protect the rights and privileges of individual faculty vis-a-vis potential wrongdoing of the administration. But most interestingly, they say that the way in which both Mónica Ponce de León and Tony Turano write falsely or cite falsely a rule of the dean of the faculty is just a different interpretation of the term at any given time. That is really incredible that 6 senior, I think there were 2 assistant professors and 4 senior professors in the mix, but serious professors, can say that a rule that limits and sets a limit for the number of people that can take a leave on any given period, that a whole year is the same that saying at any given time. I mean, we had experts in psychology, in linguistics, in biology, and these people can count, okay? The difference between one and the other is double. It is incredible that these 6 people voted unanimously that this was a matter of interpretation, and that the appearance of that word is one of the interesting facts of this process. But not only that, they recommended at the end that the DOF considers whether the term clearly states the intent of their policy. So in a way, they are suggesting that this difference of interpretation has to be resolved by rewriting the rule so that the rule fits what the decisions from the authority ad hoc. That is how this committee concludes their verdict. And so when I question the verdict, I write to them and say, this is ridiculous for a number of reasons. They don't answer any further. You see they answer in 3 sentences. And they say, in this case, the committee voted unanimously not to accept your appeal for further consideration. So the decision was unanimous. We don't have to explain to you why the decision is like that. We don't have to discuss this. This is matter closed because we are the committee that is in charge of this, and we have voted unanimously for dismissing your claim. So I made sure to end up the process to let them know that I thought that what they were doing was a cover-up, not dissimilar to the ones that we had seen in the American Senate shortly before, in which people vote not in consciousness, but vote in order to support a certain group of interests. They are group thinkers, they are rubber stampers, and so I made sure that I told them that what they were doing. So it was an incredible conclusion of the process that got, and I don't even know how 6 senior members of the Princeton faculty with substantial combined expertise in linguistics, logistics, maths, to state that the rewriting of the rule by the dean of the school and the dean of the faculty was just a different interpretation. That is very postmodern. And I remember Dennett's words and made sure that I reminded them of the post-truth culture and the Senate cover-up. Paradoxically, some of these people would reappear, as we will see in the last session, in my appeal against the recommendation for dismissal from President Eisgruber to the Board of Trustees. 4 of these people had been already in 2 of my in 2 different appeals. And I think following the rules of the American Association of University Professors, the faculty should not have been involved previously in any complaint with the appellant. But obviously these people did not recuse themselves, even if I reminded them at the beginning of the process that they perhaps should recuse themselves. There you see the sequence of repetition of the same names time and again, decided from this pool of people which are determined by the Committee on Committees, whose president is actually the president of the university. So these are things that are happening in the background that remind me of this idea of Arendt's, this concept of Arendt's banality of evil, where people who are selected by authority and acting on behalf of the authority are able to suspend their consciousness. I don't think that these people believe that neither the thesis protocols were appropriate and that the behavior of Dean Ponce de Leon was appropriate. I cannot believe that unanimously these people think that. I think they are forced into this group thinking situation and probably selected carefully by the authority in order to support their decisions. So this is why I believe that the concept of the banality of evil is important when talking about academic consensus, because this kind of group thinking and desire for compliance and convergence that sometimes is forced into the academic consensus is very clearly related to that banality of evil notion. Finally, these 4 decades of postmodern thinking have created a fertile ground that has allowed the post-truth world to emerge, world where lying has become customary, and in the light of all this evidence that I just mentioned, one wonders if Princeton has adopted already the Nietzschean version of truth, which is basically interpretation and is at the mercy of power, and become the very first post-truth university.